had a big wolf print that was there and several coyotes. So I mean, it's great because it keeps everything a little bit in check. But it also it puts pressure on the deer.
And obviously wolves are a contentious issue, but the way I kind of look at it in my mind is say the UP wolf population takes 10,000 deer. Now that's just a totally arbitrary number. When we had 250,000 deer in the UP and they were taking 10,000 deer, we didn't notice. If you now have 80 to 100,000 deer in the UP and they're taking, then you're going to notice. It's easy to blame the wolves, and I'm sure wolves are taking deer, but look at the bigger picture, and it's a habitat issue. We definitely need to look at getting those cedar yards were degraded when we had too many deer. If you don't have a cedar deer yard in the UP, you will not have any deer. It's pretty simple.
And I think, obviously there's been a lot of contention on how much wood to be cutting because, those talk about creating habitat for deer and birds. That is a big issue. And then you get into the standpoint of, some of the problems from Wisconsin. And I think overall, there's certainly been some challenges. But we've worked hard to manage that. And I have the eastern part of the Upper Peninsula, which would be Rudyard, Pickford, and there's a lot of deer over there just because it's a lot of hay fields and flat, just really a good grazing land. And there's been concerns about some of the nose-to-nose contact issues that had been going on with the bovine over in the Presqu'île area, which we also represent. And so I think we're working through some very, very tenuous communicable diseases, and at times it's less than pleasant to have to work on those.
That's a key statement, is working through. I mean, every deer hunter in every state blames the DNR for something. That's just the way it is. But as deer hunters, the way Kelly and I look at it, it's our job to know what's going on with the deer herd. It's our job to understand how they impact the habitat. You don't have to be a biologist, but you should have some basic understanding. Do your part as a hunter first, meet the DNR halfway, and that's a whole lot easier way to get things done than to just play the blame game, because who's going to lose? Everybody.
Okay, let's talk about fishing. What's going on this fall for fishing?
There's a lot going on for fall fishing. The steelhead is always good. Lake Michigan is always really good for salmon. It starts in the southern part of the coast early on in the early summer, and then as the summer goes on, it gets good north, and a lot of guys follow it north.
So it starts sort of down in Muskegon, Three Rivers,
St. Joe,
down
in
all the
that
way
area.
up to
goes all the way up. Ludington's always a good place. Muskegon, like you said, it's just really good. The salmon fishing is unbelievable over there. And then on our east coast, there's a lot of good fishing too. Lake Huron has gone through a lot of struggles, but right now the lake trout fishing is still really good over there. Despite all the problems that we're having with bait fish and things like that over there.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were at the Senator Stamas and I were over for the Brown Trout Festival, that they were talking about the bait fish had moved down because of some of the exotic species that had moved in and sort of changed the composure of the lower and upper, I guess the lower and middle levels of the Great Lakes, and it was the way that the sun was penetrating down and creating a different type of algae growth.
It's almost as if you look at a lake like one of those incandescent light bulbs or fluorescent light bulbs. They have that powder all the way through them. That's the energy all the way through the light bulb. Well, when you get zebra mussels and red mysis, these little tiny things we can't even see, and quagga mussels that start filtering all that energy. All that energy is being sucked towards the bottom. So the bait fish have to go lower. Some of the bait fish can't go lower. Well, they're gone. Some of the native, small microscopic organisms can't compete with zebra mussels for the food, so they're gone. And what you're left with are bait fish or exotic species that some of our natural predatory fish don't eat. They don't know how to eat them. They won't eat them. And you just start basically taking all the energy of that light bulb and condensing it into that bottom part. And the more and more invasive species that enter, the bigger the problem becomes. And I don't think people realize how good Michigan has it fishing-wise, especially in the fall. You don't even need a boat to do phenomenal things in the fall. You can fish off the pier heads and catch all them salmon that are staging to go in the river, salmon, steelhead. Even walleye on the east side particularly come in shallow. Then you can get in the rivers and do something that maybe 2 states outside of the Great Lakes, if you don't count Alaska, can do, and that's fish for river run salmon.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It is. It's amazing because I grew up. We live on State Street, or I grew up on State Street, along on Washington Street. The River Boardman was just always right there, and you could go out to Boardman Lake and catch a little panfish and those types of things, and then in the fall go out and catch the runs of the different fish coming up through the river, and it's a lot of fun.
And of course, the trout fishing in September, as good as it gets. Smallmouth bass fishing in Lake Erie and all the Great Lakes. It's not just good, it's world class. You can't do what we can do in Michigan anywhere in the world. It's unbelievable.
Okay, so what's your favorite river?
My favorite river for salmon, steelhead, is the Pure Marquette, just because there's lots of fish in it, but I love that area, the Baldwin area. It's really pretty, really clear water, good gravel. For smallmouth fishing, Kalamazoo River, which I probably shouldn't announce it, but it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Kelly, how about you?
Well, as a kid, it was always the Au Sable. That's where I spent a lot of time. But I'd have to say recently the Big Manistee. I've been having a lot of fun over there, especially for steelhead.
Yeah, that is. I like that. We in our scout trip used to do the Little Manistee up beyond the Mansalona area, back in that Lakes of the North corridor, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we conclude this fall, what are some things that people should be thinking about from hunting safety real quickly? Make sure you've got a compass, water, a map.
Right. The most obvious thing that people fail to do, now in southern Michigan, not such a big deal. You're probably not going to get lost. Just look for a silo and walk towards it. But in northern Michigan, in the UP, which I hunt a lot, my grandparents lived there for a long time, so I spent some time there. Tell somebody where you're going. That's the most basic thing that people forget. That's what really leads to trouble, is if you go someplace and nobody knows it. You got to take some water, take a GPS and a compass, take a GPS after you've learned how to use it a little bit, because if you're not moving, it can't really help you. You have to stay moving. Just keep your head. Michigan has some wild places, but there's really no place that you should die.
Right.
You stay in a spot. Somebody will find you if you left a note of where you're going.
Very good. And then fishing, anything we should be worrying about there?
Well, the number one thing in fishing is the invasives. We have to do something. I mean, VHS, I don't scare easily, and I'm very, very scared of VHS. And what's next?
Right.
And what's next? And what's next? We have to do something. It's not a fisherman's problem. It is a state of Michigan problem, a United States problem. We have to stop that, and we have to stop it now.
I agree. Well, this has been a wonderful interview, and I appreciate your time and efforts. And now, when can they tune you in?
Every Thursday night, we're on your local PBS station, and our website has information on everything that MUCC does, mucc.org.
mucc.org, and then they can subscribe through the...
Yep, they can get online at our website. You have a membership sign-up booth, or a sign-up area, and $25 a year to be a member of MUCC gets you the magazine.
Very good.
I can't think of any better way than to spend $25 on what you believe in.
Now, do you do any podcasts or?
We just revamped our website. It's so much better than it was. It's unbelievable.
Good.
And we are working towards more and more interactive things.
Because I've been listening to, I live Bird Dogs Forever, which is a great podcast that runs out of Colorado, and it's kind of interesting the things. And they've interviewed Steve Smith from up at the Village Press on some of the things they're working on. So, well, this concludes another edition of our Northern Michigan Update. If you'd like to get in touch with our office, you can get a hold of us through www.senatorjasonallen.com. Our toll-free number is 866-525-5637. And our email is senjallen@senate.michigan.gov. Thank you. It's been a real privilege having you on our show today.
Thanks for having us.